everyone. This is the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Vanita Lambert, and I have a very special guest with me today. She's been on the show before, and all my guests are extremely special. Melissa Holcomb Charles. She is a registered nurse, and she's also the founder of Good Heart RN PLLC.
That's right.
Okay. And we are we're celebrating and we're making folks aware that this is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we're going to be talking about that because we all have problems, and in all different facets of life. But I invited Nurse Melissa here to talk about a special presentation that she just did not too long ago, and I found it really interesting, and I hope that sharing this information will also help you. So, and I want to say Nurse Betty, that's why I keep hesitating.
You can call me Nurse
I'm like,
Betty. There's a whole community that knows me as Nurse Betty, so that's perfectly fine if you address me as Nurse Betty.
I'm hesitating at the word Melissa, but
you don't have to.
Melissa Charles, AKA Nurse Betty.
That's right.
Thank you so much for coming on the show again today.
I'm happy to be back again.
And thank you for sharing this very valuable information with us. I can't tell you how important it is to me to be able to bring folks on this show to share this important information, because that's what this platform was created for.
Absolutely.
And it just gives me great pleasure, and my passion is sharing information. So please tell us about your presentation. Well, you can reintroduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and then your presentation.
Okay, well, I am Melissa Charles. I am the founder of Good Heart RN PLLC, and I'm actually an independent nurse consultant. So I do quite a few different things. I tap into a little bit of this and that. So what you're referring to as far as the presentation, one of the things that I do is I go into corporate settings.
Okay.
And I kind of paired with a long-term care facility who had expressed that they wanted someone to come in and do a workshop style presentation for their staff. Now, this was months ago. This was months ago, but it got delayed, from personal reasons and things. But it landed in May, which happens to be Mental Health Awareness Month.
Perfect.
So the presentation was titled, and it was designed by myself. I had gone in and I met with the leaders, to get an understanding of, I asked a couple of questions. What are the struggles in the building? What is it that, because if we do mental health, mental wellness can be this wide or greater. But to understand, so that I was able to customize a presentation specific for their facility. So we sat at the table, we shared the information. I did the presentation, which was titled Overcoming Workplace Burnout with a Focus on Mental Wellness.
Okay.
Considering this post-COVID, considering this pre-COVID, just because, as you said, people are just dealing with a lot.
They are.
And some folks not necessarily talking about it, some are, but just having the resources. So part of what I enjoy doing, like you enjoy, sharing information and bringing people together. I actually, for someone who would tell you honestly, I did not want to do a lot of research. Like, I'm not the doctoral candidate because that doesn't appeal to me. But for this, it was really, really exciting. I sat down, I did a bunch of research between the World Health Organization, the APA, which is the American Psychological Association, and the data was so interesting to me. It really helped me formulate this. So I went in and I did the presentation among the staff, and they were quite receptive. People really are.
Right.
And it's not just healthcare. People, I think we were chatting before we went on film that unfortunately people are unhappy in their jobs and in their careers and different areas of their lives.
Yeah, so I kind of do the same thing you do, but with Medicare and life insurance and retirement income. I sit down and I do a fact finder with each family that I sit with, and based on their answers to my questions, That's how I customize plans for them.
Yeah.
And, helping folks retire, there are so many people out there, and I hate to be so blunt, but they just come out and say, I hate my job. That's got to be so hard to go into a building every single day for 8 to 9 hours a day and hate it.
That's right.
So that's got to take toll on you day after day. And you can't retire until, maybe 65, or I won't even be able to retire then, but depending on, your financial situation. So what do you do in a situation like that? How do you cope with that? What are some of the things that you can tell yourself, or how do you get through the day?
Right. Well, I can certainly tell you what I found in research. Now, the research that I did, because I'm going into a facility where there are people who are still actively working, so it didn't, or at least I didn't dig deep into the aspect of getting to the point of retirement and then kind of looking back like, oh my God, I've hated this for 30 years. The research was really geared toward those who are still working, but just kind of dealing with a lot. And there were some very common recommendations across every area, every site that I went to, and every reference that I tapped into. There were some common things. So there were like 4 recommendations and interventions. And I was like, okay, this is kind of a trend here. Number 1, they talked about, now remember, this was for mental wellness, protecting mental wellness, and the recommendations were not necessarily in this order, but adequate diet and nutrition, because that kind of feeds them. I was very holistic. I was so impressed.
Wow.
Adequate diet and nutrition, self-care, doing something for yourself that you enjoy, because a lot of people work because they need to work, and there's no time for anything else. There's no self-care, there's no pampering, there's no vacations. People have different situations. That was the second part. The other was exercise, physical, like taking care of your body. And then the big one that was on every single site with paragraphs and paragraphs of like statistics and recommendations is rest. We run around too much. We're doing the most. Not enough rest. So the studies kind of point to those 4 things when insufficient is just a recipe for disaster. Well,
you saw me smiling as you were going through. I'm 2 for 4, I think. I try to eat healthy Monday through Friday, and it does make a difference.
Yeah.
And then I go to the gym 4 or 5 times in the morning, per week.
Wow, that's good.
So not for long, like an hour to 90 minutes. I never stay longer than 2 hours because I'm
there
every day.
That's
because
good.
I'm releasing endorphins, and it's my happy cells, and I'm in my moment, in my place. So that is just so important. The rest, I have insomnia. There's nothing I can do about that, and I refuse to take pills. But the self-care, the solution for me that I found was I joined this. It's called Among Women's Group. And like once a month or every 6 weeks or so, just the women get together in this group at different houses or in, a situation, and we focus on just us. We eat and we talk and we pray and we have little gifts, and we don't do anything for anybody else except ourselves for even if it's just a few hours.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good stuff.
I think, and you hit the nail on the head. If you're not happy with yourself, or if you're not feeling good about it, you go into a job that you hate, it's just going to be 10 times worse.
That's right.
So, wow.
And that affects your productivity as well.
It does.
If you don't feel good, in your body, it's hard to perform. If you don't feel good mentally, or you're boggled down or emotionally, it's difficult to focus.
It is.
And to be productive in your workspace. So then that just adds to it. They also recommended, and it's funny that you gave that example because that was one of the recommendations. is to create social supports.
Yes.
So like when I built the visuals into the presentation, I found pictures of like social groups and people kind of gathering together, because isolation is a tool of the enemy.
It's group therapy. If you and I have the same problem, we can relate and release.
Absolutely.
And oh my
and not
goodness.
trauma bonding. Like there's something
Oh,
that they
yeah,
call
no.
trauma bonding. Like, the recommendation is not to kind of come together and let's share, who feels the worst. But to come together, like you described your women's group, where you bring, if you're with like-minded people, and prayer is a wonderful thing.
Oh my goodness.
It's grounding, right? And to touch base or to share stories or to eat in fellowship.
Oh yeah.
Like a happy place. You mentioned like a happy
Exactly.
place. And that's so important, and studies actually point to that.
And you're like pampering yourself.
It's
and in
good
terms
stuff.
of vacation, even if you like, when my children were little, we could not really afford to go on, Disney World, nice vacations or whatever, expensive vacations, I'll say. We went to like Massachusetts for a week. Right. You don't have to go far, just get out of your environment and do something different.
That's right.
And well, back then they did have cell phones. But anyway, try to limit yourself on your cell phone and your computers. Detach yourself from your daily routine. Do something to break up the monotony.
That's good.
In another place, even if it's just another town.
That's
you could go
right.
to Mystic,
That's right.
You can take a day trip, even if if you can't afford to go for the whole day.
That's
and
right.
I talk about affordability because that was my situation. But if you can't afford to go, like my brother, I yelled at him yesterday. He told me he went to Hawaii, had a great time with his wife, blah, blah, blah. That was his first vacation in 7 years. I was like, I should hurt you, because he could afford 7 years. You could have a mental breakdown.
You definitely can.
By then. So take care of yourself, love yourself, pamper yourself, even if you're at home. Shut your bedroom door, buy yourself a new ensemble,
Right.
roll
It's
around
doing
in it,
something different.
and buy some creams and just pray and just, thank God for today and
That's
just
right.
appreciate yourself. Self-love is so important.
And finding what works for you. What comes to mind is there's a slide, and there's a gentleman, and he's sitting and he's getting a haircut. Like, someone might hear that and say, well, that's small, that's something I do regularly. But if it's something you do regularly, but it reinforces the feel good for you, then do it. If it's your nails, if it's your hair, if it's quiet time. Like, I'm a person, I love quiet time. I love my family. I would not trade them. But when I get a few hours alone, quiet, just to sit. Like years ago, I used to be an avid reader, so I don't read as much as I used to. But I'm finding that at this point in my life, I just need that peace, and that's grounding for me.
That is so true. I do the same thing. Like, I'll be home. I work from home, and it's just 3 of us in the household. My husband go to work, and my son's going to work. I won't put on a TV, a radio.
That's good stuff.
Nothing. And, I don't work all the time. I'm just like relaxing a lot of times. And it's just so serene, so peaceful. It's like.
It is. I think it's underestimated.
Yeah. And especially for, and I'll talk about my issues, which has a lot to do with mental breakdowns, menopause. When I first started going through menopause, how does that affect you mentally? I was on an emotional roller coaster, and I didn't even know it. So that was a crazy thing for me. I was like yelling at my son for things, and I was like, wait a minute. Later on, I would say, wait a minute, he's been doing that forever. Why am I yelling now?
Because it bothered you more.
It did.
At that stage,
And I didn't know it. And, I think I said, oh my God, what is going on here? And so I had to take a step back and just reevaluate everything that I was going through.
Yeah.
Then the sweats came, and I was like, okay, I'm going through menopause. I'm yelling at, I'm going to alienate my family. I'll be here by myself. All because of menopause.
Sweating.
I'm like, no. So you have to realize when you're going through different stages.
That's right.
Postpartum, after you have a baby,
that's a
you
big
may
one.
go through a little stage or just whatever. But anyway,
That's
I'm
right.
glad I caught up with mine before, my husband left me or whatever. or my son's moved out.
Well, we're happy that it gets to that point.
Like, what's wrong with this woman? Well, I've
Yeah.
seen it happen.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely,
if
definitely.
if there is a problem, you know, one of the things I do is talk about it. If you can talk about it.
That's right.
It takes about maybe 2 minutes to say, I'm sorry. Not even that long. 2 minutes is a long time. You can say, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I didn't mean it, let's try again. It'll hurt, it'll be a little humiliating, depending on what it is.
Right.
And then the healing process starts. You
That's
start
right.
to build whatever.
That's
So
right.
don't let anger or anything mess up your mind. The mind is, you know, a terrible thing to waste. And I know that's an old cliche, but
it's true.
It's so true.
But it doesn't change. And another part of the presentation, I came across this word, and it was mindfulness. And I found a visual.
Mindfulness.
And yeah, mindfulness. And I said, you know what? I've heard this word before, so clearly I know what it means. But during the research, there was an emphasis on mindfulness. There was actually a definition, which I honestly don't remember off the top of my head, but in short, what it was saying was to kind of find yourself in the moment, in the place. And there was a visual, there's a woman on this slide, and she's kind of like, oh. So what I did with the crowd, you know, I said, when you see this slide, what comes to your mind? What do you think of? No right or wrong answer. There were so many different descriptions because people perceive things differently. One person said peace. Another person says she's deep breathing, relaxation, she's grounded. And then I gave the definition, as I had researched it, of what mindfulness, and again, I don't remember it verbatim, but it was pretty much saying, accept your feeling and where you are in the moment. Because a lot of us are 3 days ahead because we have a schedule and we have to do this. So we have the kids, we have the college student, we have the spouse, whatever. And then, you know, the opposite of that is kind of being stuck in the past.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't work through or get past some things that we've dealt with. So we find ourselves kind of being pulled in both directions. Mindfulness says just kind of, you know, center in. Like, take that moment. Like, I like to deep breathe and I like to pray. So for me, my centering is, you know, in my faith and my relationship with Christ. So find out what it is. Like, what works for you? What's going to bring you back to the moment where you're not stuck in the past or you're not 3 days ahead because you're so boggled down with things. We have so many different things.
Life moves so fast.
Right. Life keeps on lifing.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's true for most of us.
It is.
Life keeps on lifing.
It is. You know, when you were explaining that and you said your moment, I know my moment. My moment is when I'm cooking. Because when I'm cooking, my husband said, do you know you're humming? I was like, no.
Wow.
I was humming and didn't realize I was humming, and I have a tune.
Really? So it's a happy place for you.
I'm in my moment.
We definitely
I'm
gonna
making
find out where you
sweet
live.
potato pies and everything. And the one thing about me is my mind never turns off. I'm always thinking, but when I'm making those pies and putting the vanilla flavor and I'm just in my moment and my little happy place, I'm not thinking about anything else.
Wow.
That's your moment. You just described it for me. You just confirmed it for me.
That's great.
That's my moment.
That's great.
Wow. And I wasn't always there, you know.
That's all right.
I didn't
That's all
always
right.
have that. I didn't always have that. But that's a beautiful place to be.
I think
When-
so.
Especially for us, because, you know, like, if you're dealing with problems, it's hard to get there. Because I remember a time where I was financially stressed out. That's a terrible place to be.
Yeah.
And you never seem to kind of get away from it. And that's why when I said to you, I wasn't always there. When I was financially stressed, this was back in, I think, the 90s. And I would write rubber checks because I knew that, ShopRite wouldn't cash it for 3 weeks or whatever. And I would worry about that. What if they did, So you have to find a way to put all that stress, whether it's financial, personal, whatever, aside, even if it's just for a few minutes.
That's right.
And
In the
find
moment.
your moment. And
Find your
and
moment.
Just pray for your
You like
moment.
that, right? That was good to
love
me.
it. Are
I was
you
like,
kidding
I
me?
never thought this much about the word mindfulness until I was doing this research for this presentation. I was like, that's what it is.
Yeah, I don't even know if I've ever heard the word mindfulness. I mean, maybe I have and just sitting, thinking mindful. Okay, you're thinking about it or whatever.
Yeah.
That is really
so
something.
it has the definition, but it varies from person to person. It really does. And I learned that when I did this survey around the room.
Wow.
Everyone said something different. I was like, wow. Good stuff.
That's great. This sounds like a wonderful presentation.
Yes, and it's mine. I created. I did the research, so it started with that particular group. But I'm open. I go into religious institutions. I'll go into schools, corporate settings. Pretty much we're invited as long as it's a good, safe
wherever
place.
there's a need, wherever there's people.
Wherever there's people, because there's always a need. Like we all have life. We all have a lot. We all, have minds. So I think it's good for anyone that's interested in doing it and just learning a lot about it.
And learning a lot about yourself.
A lot about yourself.
It's a lot of self, learning.
Yeah. I learned a lot. It's funny you said
I'm
that.
learning a lot.
I learned a lot
here
about
with you.
me, right? Because we know these things. Like that you enjoy cooking, but until you sit and you have a conversation with someone who's now done some research. We're not thinking about mindfulness when we're cooking. No. I cook and I love to cook. That's what you're thinking. You're singing your song. You're in your happy place.
That's right.
There you are.
That is it. Oh my goodness. So everybody needs to be mindfulness.
Mindfulness.
This seems like a great presentation. Oh my goodness. How long was it? Was it like a half an hour, 30 minutes?
Yes.
And it was interacting too.
Yes, it was interactive. It was not designed to be long because, again, what initiated this was me having a meeting with the leaders at a facility. So I was not able to take the staff away from their posts for a long period of time. So it was very straightforward. It's about 25, maybe 30 minutes.
So are you going to do a follow-up? Because I wonder, so the purpose of the presentation was for the employees, the staff, to make them feel better about their job and how to deal with the mental stress of being burnt out or not liking your job or whatever. So it seems like the purpose is to get to know yourself, get to like yourself, and if you're able to accomplish that and find your happy place, then you might not hate your job as much, or you might like it a little bit better.
Right. Well, the ultimate goal was to kind of change the culture, to have it be a more positive type of culture. So I mean, there are a lot of things that we would hope to come out of it. A lot, obviously, for the individuals, but it was kind of like we need a little bit of an overhaul, because what happens is that when people don't feel good, it kind of, they bleed that, they exude that.
It's all in your mind. Think happy thoughts.
Yeah, and it sounds good to say, well, you know what, don't come to work and don't bring your personal stuff to work. But one of the things that I highlighted in the presentation is that sometimes it's difficult to do that, and it goes both ways. So either way is detrimental. Whether you're coming from home into your workspace, we don't know what your home life is like as your coworkers, right?
Exactly.
But it goes the other way. When you get home to your family, they don't know what happened in the course of your day. If your coworker dropped the ball, or you were stressed, or they were rude to you. So it can go both ways. So the goal was to kind of just identify it. Let's talk about it. Let's define it. Let's see what, the researchers, the folks that make the big money, who sit down and really get all of this data together, what's being said about this, what can be done about it. So that way we can, at minimum practice it and create a better culture for work.
Workplace.
In the workplace.
And there's, read this book, Speak Well by Thomas Blackwell. And I'm still reading it. I get chapters at a time over the email. And one of the things that I've learned from this book is speak your existence. Speak it into existence. Just get up in the morning. No matter how you're feeling, just say, today is going to be a great day.
I like that.
And even if it's not a great day, because we all know every day cannot be a great day,
Right.
but find something good about every day if you're not having a good day. Just find one thing good about it, and you could build on that. It's
agree with that.
amazing. The mind is an amazing tool, and it could lead you up or down. So just think good. Just think positive. Say,
That's
today
right.
is going to be a good day. And my motto is, every day above ground is a good day. And I got that from,
I
I
agree
think, the
with that.
Godfather movie or something. I don't know where. One of those movies I heard from. Yeah, one of the mob boss movies.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in that business, you can be here today and go on tomorrow.
That's
So there's
right.
every day
That's right.
above ground is a good day. And just try to find something good about
That's
that.
right.
I mean, I thank God every day that, you know, I'm still here.
Me too.
You know, and
Me
that's
too.
that's a
my
great
first
start.
thought upon waking. Like,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, God.
exactly. Think about your higher power, you
That's
know,
right.
and think about the people that you love, your family, your children, and just start thinking happy thoughts. I think
agree.
that's a good start to a great day.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that we can talk ourselves pretty much into or out of how
Oh,
we're
yeah.
gonna feel.
Be optimistic. Look at the glass of water
That's right.
half filled.
That's right.
Don't be a pessimist.
That's right.
Pessimistic. Oh, it's half empty. Well, you still got some water left over.
Right,
So
right.
anyway, we have about 1 minute left,
Okay.
and I just want to say how much I appreciate having you on the show
Thank you.
again.
Thank you.
I
This
hope
was
that you'll
fun.
come back and share some of these
I definitely
wonderful
will.
presentations. I mean, I'm lucky. I get free therapy here every time I have somebody like her on. So, is there anything
Thank
you want to
you.
leave our audience with?
No, just happy to be here. My information is on the screen, and certainly if you are in a school setting, a religious setting, a corporate setting, I can cater to whatever the need is. I can design the presentation. I'd be more than happy to come out and share. I like interactive workshops because we need each other.
Yes, we do.
We need each other, and I learned a lot with that. So, yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us. And follow us on YouTube. This is the David Goodman Reality and Truth Show, and we're on your side.